Welcome. The history books of the Bible are packed with accounts of people with tremendous faith and courage, and how they overcame in the face of often overwhelming opposition. They're books from which we can learn so much, but too often they're neglected and forgotten. Well, we're going to start a study today of the beginning of the book of 1 Samuel. You may know it better as 1 Samuel. It's the account of Samuel the prophet, of Saul, the king whom the people wanted, and of God's choice to be king, David, and his wait to become king. So please turn with me to 1 Samuel chapter 1. My name is Keith Simons. I'm a Bible teacher from England. I present these talks on how to understand the King James Bible using a different chapter of the Bible each time, looking at it verse by verse and word by word. And today we're looking at 1 Samuel, or if you prefer, 1 Samuel chapter 1. So turning then from the book of Ruth, which was the previous book that we studied, we find another account of a woman with incredible faith, Hannah, the wife of a man called Elkanah. Verse 1 is one of those verses which people fear to read in a church because it's one which has a lot of long or unfamiliar names in it. And readers often ask, how do you pronounce these names? The fact is that we pronounce very few of the names in the Bible in a way that's even remotely similar to their Hebrew or Greek forms. The aim when you're reading in the church is just to sound convincing and assured as you read these names, and to try to pronounce letters in the correct order. So let me have a go at verse 1. If you're not following this in the Bible, then obviously these names will sound strange to you, but just bear with me while I read it. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zoph, an Ephratite. Words have meanings. This man came from Ramathaim Zophim. That's actually rather meaningful. Ramathaim Zophim. It means the twin hill of the watchman. So we've got a hill here with two peaks, two highest points. And it's a hill where guards stand to watch. Why are they watching? Because it has a view in a direction from which Israel's enemies might come to attack. So there, these guards are positioned day and probably night too, with trumpets in their hands. They must watch constantly for the first sign that an army might be approaching. And if they see something, they blow their trumpets, and immediately Israel's men leave their work, grab whatever weapons they have, and go to fight. And that tells you about the period of time in which this account takes place. It's the same period as the book of Ruth, the period of the judges, a period where Israel has no central government, no proper army, where it's in great danger of being totally extinguished as a people, and people are fighting for their lives. How much they need a king to lead them, to organise their country, to defeat the enemies round about. That's going to be the story of the book of 1 Samuel or 1 Samuel. It's going to be the story of how God provided a king to lead Israel's people and to make it into a safer place. This man comes from Mount Ephraim. Ephraim was one of the tribes of Israel to the north of Judah in the central part of Israel. His name is Elkanah, and then we've got a list of his ancestors. Now, we know from 1 Chronicles 6:34 rather more about the history, the family history of this man. He is a Levite. In other words, he belongs to the families that are not priests, but are related to the priests and have duties to help in the worship of God. He's also from the descendants of Korah. Korah rebelled against God, against Moses, against Aaron, and against the choice of the priests. And at the time of Moses, there was a terrible judgment that happened against Korah and against his supporters. They died, but the sons of Korah lived. And the family of the sons of Korah was the family that we are now reading about. So we've got this list of names, and then at the end of the verse, it tells us that he was an Ephratite. You'll see that description in the family of the book of Ruth as well, but with a different meaning. In the book of Ruth, Ephratite means someone from Bethlehem, the ancient name of which was Ephratah. But here, this man, Elkanah, is an Ephratite, meaning someone from the region of Ephraim. It's a word with a double meaning. So why does it occur at the beginning of both of these books? Well, maybe it's a little play on words. It's a little reminder that this is the same period of history, and we're going to have a very similar story at the beginning of 1 Samuel. A story of another woman who, like Ruth, had incredible faith, but no children. Here it's Hannah. And just as through Ruth, Israel's royal family came into existence, through Hannah, the prophet whom God chose to appoint Israel's royal family, came to be born. So there's links going on here, just suggested by this coincidental word which happens to mean not only a person from Bethlehem, but also a person from Ephraim. On to verse 2. And he, that's Elkanah, had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. But Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. He's a good man, Elkanah, but he's a bit compromised. He had 2 wives. This wasn't seen as wrong at the time. David had several wives, and the Bible is honest about these things. It's honest about the fact that some good people were not always doing what was right in their marriage affairs. It is honest about the troubles that having more than one wife causes. And we'll see a tremendous conflict between these 2 wives of Elkanah. But as I say, this man, Elkanah, was a good man. At a time when Israel's people did not serve the true God, Elkanah remained faithful. At a time when the house of God was a place where wicked things were taking place, Elkanah still served the Lord. Verse 3, and this man went out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. So we've got Eli, who is the chief priest, a very old man. We've got Hophni and Phinehas, his sons, who perform the main duties of the priests. We're going to discover in the next chapter that those two sons are in fact extremely wicked men. But for the moment, the Bible doesn't tell us that, because it wants us to focus our minds on the purity of worship, on the purity of serving God in Shiloh. Shiloh was the place of the tabernacle, God's house, a tent built by Moses to be the dwelling place of God among Israel's people. In later generations, they would have the temple, but at the time of Elkanah, it was the tabernacle of God in Shiloh. And one of the things that was important to Elkanah in his religion was to sacrifice to God. We get more of an explanation in the next few verses. Verse 4, and when the time was that Elkanah offered his sacrifice, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters portions. Verse 5, but unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. So what is Elkanah doing here? He's offering what is called a peace offering. Sometimes it's called a fellowship offering. It's a type of sacrifice where the animal is not burned completely on the altar, just some pieces from it are burned on the altar, and some pieces are given to the priests, and the rest of the meat belongs to the family who gave it, and they share it with each other and with friends. And it's an expression of the fellowship, the peace between God, his priests, and the people. They're all sharing meat from the same animal, like when you have a meal together. Hannah receives a worthy portion. The translation could be a double portion. Hannah is receiving special honour because although Peninnah, one of the wives, and her sons and daughters are all provided for, Hannah without children is not to be left out. And this man Elkanah, he loved Hannah. Although he had two wives, his love for Hannah was genuine. And he would have had children by her, but the verse says, the Lord had shut up her womb. In other words, she couldn't have children. Verse 7, and as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. That's Peninnah, the other wife, provoked Hannah. She upset Hannah because Hannah had no children, and she had so many. And this distressed Hannah so much that therefore she wept and did not eat. And how distressing for Elkanah at this point, this most important point in his religion, that his family should share together in this peace offering, this fellowship offering. But Hannah can't eat because she is so sorrowful. And Elkanah feels for his wife, and verse 8, then said Elkanah, her husband, unto her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? A real romantic, isn't he? He's saying to Hannah, look, I love you. I love you deeply. I love you as much as 10 sons would love you. Don't worry that you don't have children. You're not being neglected by me because you don't have children. I value you. You're my wife, and I love you. But that doesn't satisfy Hannah. Verse 9. So Hannah rose after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli, the priest, sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. So we've got Eli, the chief priest, an old man, sitting there watching the worshippers praying after they've had their sacrifice, they've carried out their sacrifice. Hannah goes to pray. Hannah is so upset, provoked by her rival, feeling distressed that she has no children. For other people, that might turn them to bitterness, to anger against God. But for Hannah, she feels a different sort of bitterness. She feels this in her soul, and she turns to God in her affliction and prays for help. Verse 10, and she was in bitterness of soul deep within her, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore, and she vowed a vow. She made a promise, a serious promise to God, a promise that astonishes us. Verse 11, and she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, look at me, your maid, your servant, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give unto thine handmaid a man-child, a boy. Then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. She says, God, if you give me a boy, I'm not going to keep that boy for myself. I'm going to give him to you. In this age of compromise, in this age of wickedness, in this age of people turning away from God, I'm going to give to you my son for his whole life, that he will be yours, and that Israel will see what happens when a man is wholly dedicated to God. And there shall no razor come upon his head. He's to take the vow, the Nazirite vow, Numbers chapter 6, and he's to follow that Nazirite vow for his life. He is never to shave his hair. He is never to eat grapes or drink wine. He is to serve God in faithfulness for his whole life. Usually when people took that vow, it was for just a short length of time. And really it's only Samuel and Samson and John the Baptist in the Bible who we read of a similar vow being made about. But Hannah wants to do this thing. She wants to give her child to God. Verse 12, and it came to pass as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought that she had been drunken. Just an incidental insight here. This passage clearly means that people prayed aloud. Even private prayers, even secret prayers, they prayed aloud, because Eli thought it was very, very strange that Hannah moved her lips, but no sound was coming from her voice. And Eli can't recognize prayer. He's supposed to be the holiest man in Israel, but he's neglectful. He's a man of God who cannot recognize true, a deep state of prayer. And so he puts the explanation to this, that Hannah must have drunk alcohol and had too much, and he tells her off. Verse 14, and Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, no, my lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. I've been in a deep state of prayer. I've not been thinking. If I thought, I would have prayed aloud, like everyone else does here. But no, My soul has been speaking to God, and so that is why you've not heard the words from my mouth. Verse 16. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial. For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. A daughter of Belial. Belial means worthlessness. A daughter of, we find the same phrase except a son of Belial in chapter 2 and verse 12. A son of Belial is a wicked person, a worthless person. Don't take me as for someone who cares only to drink and to indulge my own feelings. No, that's not what I'm doing. I am pouring out my heart before God. I am pouring out my complaint, my distress to him. Verse 17. Eli, the chief priest, recognizes his mistake. So then Eli answered and said, Go in peace. The God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. I wonder what Eli thought. Did he think he was blessing Hannah? Did he think he was just making a nice comment after the embarrassment of his mistake? But for Hannah, that is the holiest man in Israel who has spoken to her. And she said, verse 18, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went away and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Eli, who is authorized to speak the word of God, has blessed her with the words, The God of Israel grant thee thy petition. So now the woman's despair is turned into faith. She believes that God will answer that prayer, so she goes away. She eats. She'd refused to eat before. Her countenance, her face is no more sad. She's happy. She believes that God will answer that prayer. She's not pregnant yet, but she believes. Verse 19. And they rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to the house in Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife. He knew her in the way that a husband knows his wife. And the Lord remembered her. That is, the Lord remembered her prayer and answered it. Because, verse 20, wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. The name Samuel means heard of God. God's heard me. God, I asked him for a son, he gave me a son. But what of this vow? What of this promise that Hannah has made? She holds in her arms this miracle baby, this answer to her prayers, but she's promised to give him to God. Well, the time comes to go to the tabernacle again, as Elkanah did each year. And the man, this is verse 21, and the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow, that is to say, to carry out his promise to God to offer another animal this year. Verse 22, But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. What's Hannah saying? She's saying, I've given this child to God, but he still needs me as his mother. He needs me until he is weaned. In other words, he needs to be breastfed, and when he is weaned off that breastfeeding, then that is the right time to give him to God. So I'm not going to go up to worship God at the tabernacle yet. I won't worship him now because I don't want to bring this child to the tabernacle only to take him away again because he still needs my breast milk. But when the child is old enough, when he's reached the age that he no longer needs the breast milk, then I'll bring him with us as we go for that sacrifice, and he will appear before the Lord. He will have his place in the tabernacle, and there he will abide or remain always. It will be his place always to honour God at the tabernacle, because this is to be a life wholly given to God. Until he's weaned. Mothers generally take the child off breast milk at quite a young age, just a few months today. In former times, they kept the child on breast milk for as long as they could, perhaps even until the child was 3 or 4 years old, and that seems to be the suggestion here. So Hannah would have the opportunity to teach this little child of the ways of God. How much can you teach a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old of God? You can teach that child to love God, to respect God, to consider the things of God to be valuable. Those lessons that Samuel would learn from his mother, those lessons remained with him his whole life. What's going to be the reaction of Elkanah, the husband, to hear that this son of his is going to be handed over to God? Because let's be clear, it wasn't necessary to hand him over to work as a servant in the tabernacle for the rest of his life. Leviticus 27:6 contains the provision that if a son is given in such circumstances, or any person, money can be offered instead to God to take the place. But Hannah doesn't want to substitute the child for money. She wants her son to work for God. And Elkanah shows his genuineness in his response. Verse 23, and Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seemeth thee good. Do what you consider to be the right thing to do. Tarry or wait until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord establish his word. The Lord establish his word. Oh, may God complete what he has begun. I see now not a servant of God who serves God all his life. I see a little baby in your arms that you are offering to God. But may the Lord complete this. May he really do what he has promised to do to you. So the woman abode and gave her son suck. She fed him at her breast until she weaned him, until he no longer needed the breast milk. Verse 24, and when she had weaned him, she took him with her, with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. Yes, the child was very young, but nevertheless the time was right. He no longer needed the breast milk. He could now begin to serve God at the house of God in Shiloh. Verse 25, and they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli. So they brought the child to the chief priest to hand him over to him. From now on, he would be Samuel's teacher. He would look after Samuel in his own family. What's happening here with these bullocks? A bullock is a young bull. They took 3 bulls there, but there's only a record of killing 1 of them. Well, the explanation might be that one of them, the one that they killed, was the whole offering, the burnt offering, to be burnt entirely on the fire, the altar of God. And Why was he burnt like that? Why was the animal burnt like that? Why did it need to be destroyed completely in the fire? Well, this was the offering you gave if you wanted to give yourself to God, if you wanted to devote yourself to God. You obviously can't kill a person. That wouldn't be in accordance with God's law at all. But instead, they killed an animal that was whole and clean and well. And as the smoke from that animal rose up to God, God would accept that gift. So it was a way to express the giving of the gift. And the other two bullocks, the other two young bulls, maybe they were peace offerings. Maybe they were eaten, as we've described previously, by the family and by the friends of Elkanah, the man who'd just given his son to God. Or maybe they were a gift for the priests. Maybe they were to help them with the expenses of looking after Samuel, because when Elkanah and his wife handed over Samuel to the priests, they didn't forget about Samuel. They didn't forget about the expenses of bringing him up and the need to look after him. And when they brought the child to Eli, Hannah said this, verse 26, and she said, "O my Lord," lowercase Lord, that's the title of honour she's giving to Eli. "O my Lord, as thy servant liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord in capital letters, because praying to the true God." She's saying, she calls Eli Lord with great respect, but she's reminding him of that instant when she was without children and she poured out her soul to God. Verse 27, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him." Verse 28, "Therefore also have I lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord." And, this is a start of Samuel's life of pure devotion to God. He's handed over to the priests. He's just going to do, they expect this time, the work of an ordinary servant. But he's to become a prophet in due course, as we'll discover. A prophet even like his mother Hannah was a prophetess. And we'll be looking at that next time when we look at the prophecy, the astonishing prophecy that Hannah gave on that occasion. But chapter 1 just finishes with the phrase, "And he worshipped the Lord there." And we're wondering, who worshipped the Lord? And then we realise that it's this little boy, this 3-year-old or 4-year-old, who begins his work by giving honour to God, by bowing down to worship God. So please join me next time when, as I say, we'll be looking at Hannah's prayer, which is a prophecy, and that's at the beginning of 1 Samuel chapter 2. My name is Keith Simons. Please do write to me, 333kjv@gmail.com. Please tell your friends about this podcast, recommend them. We haven't got many people listening at the moment. It would be lovely to have some more and to join us on this study, which we're going to do of at least the first part of the first book of Samuel. My email address again, so you can write 333kjv@gmail.com. And now in conclusion, let me read you the whole of 1 Samuel chapter 1 from the King James Bible. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jehoram, Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. And he had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then said Elkanah, her husband, unto her, Hannah, why weepest thou, and why eatest thou not, and why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee the petition and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. And they rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to their house in Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow, but Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, Do what seemeth thee good, tarry until thou hast weaned him. Only Lord establish his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him with her, with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. And they slew a bullock, and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him unto the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there.